that very night I went home. There was this feeling in my heart that I couldn't explain. I love it. I don't know what it is. And then the next morning when I woke up, the word came fulfillment. I was like, oh, so that's what fulfillment feels like, because I was in a banking job for 7 years that I hated every minute of it for 7 years. So like I didn't even come close to that word.
Elies, thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to hear your story because you are a spiritual healer. You work with starseeds and lightworkers and healers, and you have a 5D biz. You help them with 5D business. So before we get into all of that, how did you get into it yourself? What happened in your journey?
Mhm. I took a gap year after I quit my job. So within that gap year, I was just, searching for answers like we always do at some point in life and still do, right? To some degree. And at the point I was already like in my personal spiritual journey, and I kind of like knew that's what I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure where to start because there are so many things that you can do, right? You can be like, there's just so many, from Reiki healer to yoga teacher, meditation, whatever, like whatever name you want to call it. And at the time, my teacher, my mentor, who I was like unofficially under her apprenticeship in that sense, she was suggesting why not, like, we just create a angel reading workshop and teach people how to read angel cards, since we do it every day, like, so why not? And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. So that's kind of like how I dip my toes into the business, if you may, in my very first workshop, co-creating it with her. And at the time, I was in charge on the sharing section where, like, you facilitate people to share. And I was also like giving some guided message and coaching questions to help them, get clarify the answers and things like that. And that's when I realized that that was my gift. Like I naturally do it without trying or thinking and anything like that. And it was just like, oh, I love it. And still remember till today, that very night I went home. There was this feeling in my heart that I couldn't explain. I love it. I don't know what it is. And then the next morning when I woke up, the word came fulfillment. I was like, oh, so that's what fulfillment feels like, because I was in a banking job for 7 years that I hated every minute of it for 7 years. So like I didn't even come close to that word, at least not in my work, right? So I was like, oh my God, that's what fulfillment felt like. And that was like that first angel sign and confirmation that this is it. Like, this is my path. This is what my next venture is gonna be. I may not know exactly how, but I know at least I'm on the right direction. So that's kind of how it started from that very one workshop, which is amazing now that I'm sharing it, because of course at at that time, right, that workshop is like so scary. But then now looking back, it's amazing how one little action like that like opened the entire door. And the next thing I know, I'm already doing it since 2016. And now I'm doing something totally different. But it was without that first step, I wouldn't be here where I am. Let's just put it that way. So yeah, that's kind of like the summary of how I got into this.
That's amazing. That's a big jump from corporate to doing your own thing. And how has your life
Yeah,
been
and
different in
angel
other
card,
ways?
not this, and also like
Of all things,
totally
yeah.
like, yeah.
So how different do you feel? I mean, what fulfillment, what is that? What is fulfillment?
For me, it feels like my heart is full. Like I'm just not searching for something to fill it up. The cup is full, the heart is full, like complete, like whole and complete.
That's,
Yeah,
I
of
think, what
course, then
most people are
it's
looking.
also joy and bliss and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people are working just because they need to, but they don't really know what it is that they want to be doing. So before we go into that, what is the difference? Because you work with star seeds and light workers, healers? What is the difference between a starseed and a light worker?
That's a great question. Honestly, I personally am not a big fan of labeling.
Well,
How
it's just so people identify themselves as. Yeah.
exactly. However, I'm doing that because that's how we have been taught. Like that's how we relate and that's how we identify. Unless we put a name to it, people cannot relate. So that's like the only reason I put it that way. Although there is a difference. So starseed is basically those souls who reincarnate on this earth, but they originated from other places than the earth. Most of the time when we talk about starseed, we are referring to those that come from the star system and hence the name. And that's like the main difference between that and light workers. Like light workers does not necessarily come from the stars, and they can come from originally from the earth. That's like the main difference. And in my personal understanding, both of them pretty much shares very similar work, meaning to say starseed a lot of the time, maybe not all, but most of them resonate with being a light worker anyway, because
Yeah.
of the collective mission of sharing light, spreading light, and raising the vibration. So there is like that overlapping, and that difference is just kind of like the origin of it.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to have the distinction, but I did many years ago, I did a past life regression, and in that, I found out that my soul is a way shower and I'm a light worker. And I'd never heard of that. I thought that was just a name particular to me. And when I started hearing this word come up, I thought, wow, that is true verification, because it's not something somebody told me. It wasn't a list of traits that I looked up and said, oh, I must be this because it's written down here. It's something that came to me without anyone telling me. It came from inside. So there definitely is something, going on with that. Starseed, not so much. Yeah, so I understand. Okay, so you do a 5D. What is then a 5D? Or you help people with
I
that,
love
right?
I love to talk about like, how everyone is talking about the new earth, right? And like how the earth is awakening. And yes, the earth is awakening and we are going along the right with her if we want to and if we choose to. And the same thing with the business. Like, are you gonna leave your business behind, or are you gonna bring your business together as Gaia awaken? Are we awakening together? Because a lot of the time, everything we learn and know about business comes from the old construct of the 3D programming that is based on fear of limitation. And a lot of it is from patriarchy system, competition, right? Like, let me be the authority. I'm better than you. I'm number one. And then I need to find out what my competitor is doing and all those things. And that there is a lot of lag and fear, like, if you don't sign up now, your life will never, you're not going to change your life. Well, you get it. We have all been hard sold so many times that you know what I'm talking about. And there is a place for that. It worked while it worked. I'm not totally saying that, it didn't work. Like it worked when it worked for those who resonate. However, like as we collectively raise into vibrationally from 3D to 5D to a higher vibrational love of unity, of compassion and trust and oneness, and a lot of the divine feminine energy is also rising alongside the healthier masculine energy in this awakening process. The business has to reflect that, right? So it has to come from the heart center, has come to from the soul, like. So when I talk about 5D business, I'm really talking about the way we create, we build, and we run our business to really drop the old paradigm and drop into the new way. And there are just so many things in business that we can talk about, but like a great example will be even like marketing. Are we gonna market based on fear, or are we gonna market based on love? And it will really shows in like, the words that you choose and the way you sell and the way you show up, that people can feel it. I mean, all this while people know it. That's how people buy. People can feel it, but they just don't really know what they're feeling and they can't put words to it. And then as everybody is also awakening, which means the consumer or your potential client are awakening, they can feel it when it's inauthentic, when you are trying to be somebody else, when you are not being true to yourself or not being true to your words. They can feel all that. So part of that 5D business is coming into the authenticity. Yeah, to be the authentic self of who you
Yeah.
truly are and the most natural state of divine love. That's kind of like in a nutshell. So yeah, I guide people through that entire business process in that 5D way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because what a lot of coaches are doing are coaching them in their method. You know, they'll say, my way worked, do what I do. But I know you can only be as good as the clone. A clone can only be 80% as good as the original, and you'll never feel fulfilled because you're trying to do it somebody else's way and you've got your own unique traits. And I think that, you know, that's what makes you fit in and not stand out. And then how do you stand out in the crowd when you're just trying to do somebody else's stuff? And it's never really going to feel yours. Like you'll never really own it. You're just going to be copy paste, copy paste. Yeah. Yeah, that's so
Exactly.
great.
And then when
Yes.
things don't work out, you get really frustrated because it's not even your path to begin with. And it's
Yep.
funny you mentioned that just right before this, I saw a quote. I forgot the name, like who it is, but I saw a quote briefly just right before the session. It says something like, if the path in front of you is like super clear, maybe you're following somebody else's path. And I was like, yeah, that probably is. It's not entirely
Yeah.
true, of course, you know. It can be clear because we are divinely guided, but I get what the code is trying to say. It means that someone has laid it out for you and you are just following. So that's just a
Yeah.
little bit food for thought. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I found when people are their most successful, it's because they were the first. It's because they were the original. And then they'll say
Mm-hmm.
to people, do what we did, and you will, you know, I mean, I actually I subscribed to a program like TubeBuddy. It's not TubeBuddy, but you know, where they help you work with algorithms and stuff. And all they're doing is analyzing competitors' keywords and stuff. And I'm thinking, why? It may work for that video because it works for that channel. It works for their theme. To try and do that is not, you know, I understand the principle. Yes, it's good to optimize your keywords and stuff like that. But do it in a way that is, like you say, focusing on what people are looking for and not what they're running away from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so what modalities do you use? I mean, do you do personal healing as well? Does that include it? Like getting to know themselves, finding their life purpose? How does it work?
Yeah, so I combine all the healing modalities that I pick up over time, you know, because I picked it up along the way. So it really depends on the client, whether it is a one-on-one group setting or in a program that is like on-demand course. But in general, it is like part healing, part activation, part coaching. So I can be channeling light language. I might be doing EFT tapping or doing Akashic healing or be doing just visualization, healing journey. Like there are just a bunch of tools there that it really depends on the person and what is needed. But a lot of the time, not like what one of the modality that I'm most known for is like language, although I do a lot of those stuff to make sure like, you know, it's like holistic when you come into like a full-fledged program.
Okay, awesome. So you mentioned that the spiritual journey can be playful. How do you encourage them to be playful in those aspects?
Mm-hmm. It's easier said than done because I still have to remind myself on that. So it can be playful. It's more like an approach and attitude and just kind of a way of being. And one of the way of being playful is being able to laugh at yourself. Like a lot of time I found myself laughing at how ridiculous my belief system is. Like when I realized it at first, you know, like when I was working through negative belief system, well, so to speak, so to speak, negative or disempowering, I will be like beating myself up, right? Like, so I found myself having a disempowering belief system, and then I beat myself up over it. So there's like now there are two layers of beating myself up, and then I beat myself up for beating myself up, and then like it's like a vicious cycle. But then I have learned to like be a little bit more like not taking it too seriously, understanding that wow, there's information, there's awareness. Well done. Like, well done for seeing that. Great job. And not beat myself up and understanding that is so valuable. It's actually a treasure, it's an opportunity, and like really laugh at it. And obviously at first it was like a little bit not that easy to transit immediately, but then like keep on practicing that muscle. Like if you think of playfulness as a muscle, keep on practicing. And sometimes I just find myself laughing at the middle of a meditation because I'm so ridiculous for thinking that. But then that just shifted everything. And also laughter is a healing modality that every one of us have, right? Like, I mean, if you have ever attended a laughter yoga, oh, that is like really healing. You don't even have to go to laughter yoga. Like if you hear a child laugh, you're a baby laugh, and when you just laugh, it's just so healing. And laughter is so high frequency that is able to dissolve like those energetic blocks and resistance, like almost like immediately.
Absolutely. And you're spot on with that. Yeah, so I actually told a friend of mine that I'm going to have fun this year. And then every time I saw him, he'd say, "So are you having fun yet?" And it actually took all the fun away. I felt like I was under pressure to have fun.
I must have fun.
Because fun, the traditional sense of fun, people think it means watching a comedy. And it could be. It could be, but I think it's something deeper than that. It's almost like having the ability to see a side to something that's unusual or strange or whatever, Anyway, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. So tell me, what are some of the common challenges that you see with lightworkers and starseeds, especially when it comes to like building a business or getting their business seen? What are they struggling with?
Charging money.
Yeah.
Like straight on, like everyone goes through that at least like once. And it's not so much about charging money or making money. A lot of them are actually really good at that before they do the spiritual work. It's something about like that spiritual context that they think that spiritual has to be free, or like you cannot charge for spiritual gift for whatever reason that they have that belief system. A lot of time probably it comes from tradition or from the churches or even just past life, like maybe they took a vow in the past that says that I will never ever charge money for that. So there are a lot of big challenge about charging money for spiritual work specifically. I don't know what's wrong with my tongue today. But yeah.
You're welcome. So how do you help them overcome that?
So a lot of them definitely comes from self-worth, and it depends on like the situation. So a lot of the time I will usually do some form of like Akashic Clearing to help them just clear away those vows that they might have took on, the vow of poverty, of healer's vow, nun's vow, monk's vow, where they actually block money for spirituality. And then, to really replace it with something that is more empowering, like it's okay to charge money for it's actually, one thing that I was working through EFT tapping session with one client the other day was we shifted the perception from like, it's not okay to charge money for spiritual gift to it is actually honorable and respectful to charge money, because I think there are a lot of shame and guilt about that, but that the moment you see that it's actually an honor and it's respectful, then it's like, oh, it's okay. Yes. It's actually okay to charge. So yeah, I do that through like, again, those various modality I mentioned earlier, depending on the client. One of the ways that work really well definitely is EFT tapping, as well as light language. But at the end, for me, from what I work with clients most of the time, it boils down really, really back to self-worth, like that knowing that you are worthy just because you are. That's it. Like not because you make money, not because you have client, not because you have a big house, nothing outside of you, nothing. Not even your work. Like no matter how much you love your work, which we do as a light worker, but even then, that doesn't define you. You are who you are and you are worthy, and that's it. And you deserve everything you desire, whether it is money, it is love, it is joy, pleasure, fun, play, whatever it is.
I think, you're spot on, the self-worth. And I think it comes from many, 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 many lifetimes of being persecuted. They find themselves in hard situations, but I'm assuming that would be to build up their self-worth. It's almost like it's a strengthening muscle. Yes. If you are faced with a difficult challenge, you have to choose yourself Do I want to be there for me, or do I let myself be bulldozed and taken over by somebody else? So rather
Mm-hmm.
than seeing it as a victim, coming from a victim space, it's realizing that it's strengthening you in order to choose you.
Yeah. It's about calling your power back and coming back to the sovereignty of who you are.
Yeah. So is there a way for them to activate their gifts? Because every light worker, they might have challenges, but they also have gifts. How do they activate those, or their abilities that they have?
I love that. This is something that I often share as well. You know, if you can bring your past trauma into the present, you definitely can bring your past gift into the present. So let's also explore that, right? Like, what is the past gift that you come with into this lifetime that is already inside of you? Just gotta remember it and activate it. So there are many ways they can activate their gift, you know, like one of the ways, again, you know, I like to use Akashic healing as well as journaling alongside with light language. And a lot of time just really guided session that is very intuitive. There is no specific cookie cutter approach to it. But one more practical way to answer the question that, you know, something people can take away with really is just sometimes just observe a little bit internally of what comes easy for you. Like maybe you find that it's really easy for you to listen to other people's problem, and you can never understand why people never listen, because like it's so easy to listen, right? And also maybe sometimes people say that you are a good listener. So kind of like internal feedback on how you feel and external feedback on what people tell you, in the positive stuff in this case. And then, you know, see which one actually like overlap, and that will give a clue, right? So if let's say you are really good at listening, then maybe, you know, things that involve you listening to clients' problem will give you some clue. And there are so many from therapy, healer, coaches, psychotherapy, whatever. But that's like a starting point. Or if you know you write well, like for example, this is actually my very first client back in 2016, like literally the very first paying client. She was a writer for a research company, and she hated the work in the research company because it's dry and it's boring. But she loved writing and she is good at writing, but she couldn't see it and she couldn't realize it because she lumped it together. Like, I hate my job, so I must have hated writing. But then, you know, as we worked through our time together, she realized, no, I've never liked writing. No, I have never hated writing. I love it. That's how I ended up here. But I just hated like the kind of writing that I do here. And
Yeah.
from there, she realizes it, and then she uses her gift of writing to actually start to become a blogger and start to write the topic she loves. In that case, is law of attraction. And then eventually now she's like a law of attraction coaches, and she's an NLP practitioner, and like a lot of modality that she pick up. But again, you know, as I was sharing at the beginning, it start with that one step. In her case, just setting up a blog, don't even think about money at the time, you know, just doing it. And then that's how she realized her gift. It's hard. How do I put it? Like, you might not realize it's your gift, but it's pretty easy to know it's not yours when it's, because you will know at how hard it is. Like for me, there are some things that is just really hard, like technologies. If I try to be like a technician, I know like I'll be out of business like overnight. So it's pretty clear what is not my gift. But then like what is your gift, you will know it by getting your hands dirty, if that makes sense.
Well, absolutely. And I think one of the problems is for entrepreneurs is they do everything. A lot of it they don't like because, well, they can't trust anyone to do it the way they want it to be done. So they think they need to do it all themselves, or they can't afford to pay somebody. And so they become overwhelmed, and then they think that it's something wrong with them versus you shouldn't be doing it all yourself. You shouldn't be. That's what I've seen anyway. How would they find a way to differentiate what is their right thing and what shouldn't they be doing and what should they be doing, and then how do they outsource that?
So they will know it based on the intuition.
Yeah, so I'll give you an
Yeah.
example, right? So I have a
Mm-hmm.
client who, she is a film producer, she's a model, she's an actress. She does editing. She does photography. She teaches people how to do lighting, and she has won numerous awards. She's extremely good at all of them. She's a perfectionist, but when she starts editing, she gets into this total frustration because it's got to be done right. It's got to all be mixed well, and it takes hours and hours. And, once you go down the rabbit hole, you don't stop. So she's tried outsourcing it, but then they don't do it the way that she wants them to do it. So there's this inner battle going on. It's like, if I give it to somebody else, they can't see what's in my mind. They can't go through that creative process. I have it in my mind as to how it needs to be done. It's not a thing you can outsource, or is it? I mean, I'm assuming it could be. You could work with somebody and kind of, let them use their innate talents. And how does she know that she doesn't like it? Or is it something like you said earlier, where she's lumped editing with stress, where she hasn't actually checked to see what part of it is causing the stress? Is it because she's taking too long? That's I guess the question is, like, at what point can she outsource any of that?
Okay, got it. So there are many ways to look at it. So obviously I don't really know her, but just based on like this quick sharing that you have shared with me, what I'm hearing probably is also there might be an aspect of control, because the truth is nobody is going to do it exactly the way you want it, because they are not you. It's just not possible. Like, I've never been able to cook the way my mom cook it, like despite the exact same recipe, even if she has stood beside me and watch over it and say it every step of the way, it still doesn't taste the same. So if you have tried cooking, you probably get it. So like, yeah, nobody is gonna ever will do it exactly the way she wants it. Not in the way she thinks, at least, but of course, it can be close to that. Like maybe like it can be 100% at some point, but at the beginning, I feel it's more of a challenge to releasing control and to trusting people, trusting that first you attract the right people, and that you trust that the person will actually do the job for you. And part of that is also learning how to train people. I mean, like if you want them to do a very specific way, then you also get to be very practical. So this is where spirituality meets practicality, right? Like, yeah, we are focusing on the spirituality. We follow our intuition. We let go of control, surrender, and we trust the universe. But the practical aspect comes from then you probably got to train the person if you're very specific with your step. Come up with the steps, and then they can do it according to that step. And then it might take time, it might not take time. Yeah, so I feel it's kind of like the challenge with the control part and letting go. And also probably as you were sharing, it's like probably the lumping. And maybe she's just overworked. Like sometimes when you have a lot of passion, you love all of it, but there are that much energy you have at that point, and when you overstretch, everything is tiring because you have no more energy. You're just running on empty tank. So it could also might be that little aspect of that. So yeah, just kind of a lot of angle to look at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, as entrepreneurs, they just feel that need to constantly be on the go and be productive. And then all they do is just create a job for themselves that is 24/7.
Yeah, it's like you become an entrepreneur because you want to be free from the 9 to 5, but then you ended up working longer than the 9 to 5. Common trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how would they incorporate like a 5D into their business? So they are running, how do they maintain that? Because there's one thing starting it, growing it, but how do you, I mean, to me, business always should be growing, but it may be expanding in other directions, or, it's moving. But how would they incorporate that in their day-to-day life?
In business or in daily life?
Well,
Overall.
I think people have, anybody who's running their own 5D business, their business and their life it's the same. I think who you are is what you do. That's the way I see it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fulfilling you.
Okay, I get what you're saying. And that's interesting because the way I see it is a little bit different in the sense that I'm not what I do, but what I do is a part of me. Sounds contradicting,
Yeah. No,
but
well, yeah,
you
I'm not
know what I
saying it's
mean?
a label. It's like it's an extension. It's an
Yeah,
extension of who you are.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll just use like my own. When I say 5D business, another way of saying it could also be priestess path, because again, these are just name, right? So the way I see it is like I see my business like a temple. So every morning I open the temple for my business, right? So I open my temple and I literally visualize that and energetically open it. And I set the intention that, like I'm allowing the temple to be of the higher service to the divine and to be the vessel of love and compassion and abundance and joy, whatever that is of value to you. And then I understand that, some people will walk past and not even look at it. Some people will look into it, but not daring to take the first step. Some people might take a photo and come back to it later. And then some will walk right to it and say, I want a ceremony now. Like, people are people, they do whatever they want. But I understand that having that visual and physical storefront in my mind give me something tangible to work with. That I understand that my job is as simple as opening the door to the temple and show up in the temple and hold the space, and then everything outside that is not my business. So I don't go outside the temple running around and chasing for clients, or I don't go outside around and running around and shouting and screaming and trying to figure out what is happening outside of it. But I'm aware. It's not like I'm not aware, but my job is to be the temple keeper, to stay in the temple, to hold my space, own my power, and do my thing. Like I do my thing and I let everything else go. So and then at the end of the day, I close the temple, I rest. I literally visually leave that temple. Of course, the temple is never really closed, if you know what I mean, because the divine is constantly talking to you 24/7. But just for the purpose of the business and having that storefront, that's how I do it, how I see it. And that's how I visualize and incorporate the 5D into every day in a very layman and simple term, if that makes sense. And of course, there are deeper layer to that, but that's like an overview of it.
Oh, I love that. I love the way you've explained it too.
Yeah.
So, do you think you're talking about this new world that we're in? So share a little bit about how you see things unfolding.
And this is a funny conversation that I had with another person the other day. And then we were talking about this new earth, it's not somewhere where we physically pack our bag and we say, oh, let's take a flight now. And then we're going to end up there. So this new earth is right here, right now. It's unfolding. The golden age is here. And now, as we speak, it's really, really here. It's up to us to attune to it, to be in it, and to live it. And the way I see things unfolding, especially around business, since we are in that topic, and actually I've seen that happening a lot already, with definitely the movement from competition to collaboration. And I've seen that a lot in the spiritual world, where a lot of people are collaborating and coming together. And recently I collaborated with so many women, and they're just so amazing. Like, because I've experienced like the 3D way of doing business, right? So I know the contrast of it. And I remember like the past few recording, it wasn't a podcast, but like we were doing a joint event where I was a guest and I was there, and they just, right after the event, they send me the video and they tell me you can reuse it, however you want. And honestly, I was surprised, because usually, traditionally in the 3D way, that content will be their content, because it's not my platform, it's their content. And usually they wouldn't give it to me. And, if they do, there will be like restriction on like whatever, how you can use it. But like, she just like literally sent it to me black and white, saying that you can have it, you can use it whatever way you want. She doesn't even bother to put a logo over it to claim her that it is hers and things like that. And I was actually very shocked when she first did it. And then after that, a few more other collaborators I work with, they did it too. And I didn't ask from them. Now, from a legal point, I don't know whether that is like the right thing to do. So don't take this from a legal advice, consult your own lawyer in that. But just the very fact that they do it is something that is like, wow, like it's that spirit of sharing, of collaboration, of community. And yeah, as I said, I was already seeing it, and there are a lot of support where we are sharing each other's posts, not for the sake of engagement, but just like really, like we are supporting and celebrating one another. Yeah, definitely see a lot more on that.
Yeah, I think it's almost like, if you want to buy a new car, you see that same kind of car everywhere. So to me, that the gap is widening. There are people that are seeing more and more of that, and there are people that are being stuck in the old way that are seeing more and more of the old way. But the lines are being very more divided. It's not so blurry anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, what daily practices would you recommend to people for maintaining their spiritual alignment or, connection? What would you recommend to them to do?
I really recommend staying in the present moment. So whether that means taking a deep breath, 3 deep breath, 1 deep breath every now and then, if you need to, putting a reminder, if that is not something you're used to, just to build that muscle. Again, we talk about building muscle, because really all there is present moment, whether it's that idea, that inspiration, that client, they're all here and now, not tomorrow, not yesterday. So practicing present moment, and I find that a really great way, as I was sharing, is really by being aware of your breath, being aware of your body. So anything that is somatic work will also really help as a supplement or complement to get into the body. Because the idea here is we want to get out of the head and get into the body or the womb or the spirit, the heart, whichever word. Whether things like yoga or like mindful yoga, not just about doing the poses, right? Like but a really mindful yoga and ecstatic dance, breath work, even yeah, I think pretty much that, or even chanting, because chanting opening up your heart, brings you back to the present moment, all of that, journaling. There are so many tools. I list so many of them because I do all of them, not like at one go, but like things that I do from time to time. So yeah, take your pick, see what resonates. And it's great that you asked this practice. This is also something I want to share, that it doesn't always have to be the same one forever. Because like how you were taught, like, oh, you need to do this for like 10,000 hours or whatever, like, or 365 days, whatever the name is. And yes, there is power in that. And that, yes, it's true that the more you practice, the better you get. But when it comes to the spiritual practice, as we say, it can be playful. It serves the same purpose anyway. So it doesn't really matter whether you eat apple or you eat orange, yeah, all fruit. So you don't have to like stick to one if you don't want to. You can if you want to, but be playful around it and don't be so rigid to it. It kind of like, don't make spirituality an extra work. It is a part of you. It is your daily life. It is the same way of how you will go and brush your teeth. You just eventually are going to go meditate because you want to, not because you should or you have to. So if meditate doesn't work for you, don't force yourself to meditate. There is other tools out there. Take your pick.
Yeah, thank you. I think, everybody needs to do what's right for them. Back to what we were saying earlier, is that you don't need to do what other people say. Some people will say, I agree that there should be a discipline. There should be a consistent discipline, but how you choose to do it can be up to you. I mean, the priests used to hit themselves on the back, you know, that's what kept them in the present moment. And, everybody's got their way. Do we still do that? No, maybe they do. I don't know. But yeah. So, Alice, where can people get hold of you?
So they can find me on social media, IG, or my website, elieshadi.com. It goes by the same name in most social media. So wherever you are in the platform, if you type my name, you can find me. I also have a YouTube channel, so by the same name as well. So you can find it all when you type my name.
Awesome. Thank you. So do you have a message for our viewers before we go?
Hmm. I will say that in the spiritual journey, I feel that it's that same message again that, yeah, it can be playful and it can be fun because as you were sharing, it depends on how you define fun. And really just don't take it so seriously. Like we come here for a reason. We are the one who choose it. So be glad that we are here. We're grateful that we are here. And human experience is actually pretty cool. And I was sharing the other day with another person, what if we come here just so that we know how pizza tastes like? Because without the physical body, we don't know, we cannot eat that pizza, right? I mean, of course, there's more than pizza, but you get my point. It's like there is the beauty of being human and being physical. So sometimes in the spiritual journey, we kind of like want to go up there, if there is an up there, if you know what I mean. But there is
Yeah.
actually all down here in the body, in the present, in this human body. Yeah, you are living your divinity in your humanity.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Thank you. It's
Thank
like
you for
that
having me.
movie City of
Mhm.
Angels where he became human just to feel love and to feel pain
Mm.
and all that, you know. I guess we take it for granted and then we get absorbed by the pain and actually there's so much more that you're missing when you're just focusing on suffering, which is all by choice. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. It was great learning from you. I love the fact that you're doing this kind of work. I think it's great. I think a lot of people need it. People need that kind of resource. If they go to a traditional coach, they're not going to get that kind of information. They're not going to connect. They're going to try and do it the 3D way, mental, rational, take emotion out of it, and it becomes slog. And eventually they give up, and then they think they're not cut out for it. It's not, you know, we it's not that they're not cut out for the work. They're just not cut out for doing it in a way that's going to drain their brain.
All
All
right.
right,
Thank you so much, Natasha. Have a great day.
you too. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.